Okay, here we have the S16 Pro, and you'll see here actually we have, it's a bit of a coincidence this, but we've got the S18, S16 Pro and the S22. Today we've already got a review of that S22. We haven't got the S22 Pro, but kind of similar on our video reviews. We've already got that on our video reviews. It's this one we're reviewing today. So you've got a 3000 watt motor. You've got adjustable headlights. Very similar to the S22 in that regard. So you can actually move them to redirect just by pulling them essentially. The S22, very similar here. Not so on the S18. But yeah, so that's adjustable. You've got two charge ports. One of them is currently in use, just charging her up to 100%. So there's the option of having dual chargers on this. It's an 84 volt wheel, so it's 84 volt 3000 watt motor, so that's the power you're putting out. Obviously on a 16 inch. Comes with this tyre, which is like a cross terrain tyre, so it's got some knobbles on it. It's not as aggressive as say the S22, sort of middle ground, because then you have the S18 on more of a road tyre, still cross, but not as cross as that. It's happy. Get it? Comes with side pads already, so that's pretty neat. Velcro, so you can put them wherever you want. Little tip, if you're fitting these side pads on, what you want to do is slide a piece of paper in, position them, push against it, and slide the paper out, and then they're in position. Hopefully that helps someone. Got a screen over the top here, which is displaying your battery percentage at the moment. That will display speed, etc. It's like a smoke plastic, so you can kind of see, hopefully, no green light in there, you'll be able to see. You got your trolley handle as well on the front, so that's how that one works. Grippy footplates, speakers, and built-in stand and shock suspension. Let me just stand this up so you can have a good look. There we go. So that's what she's like. And there's that suspension. So it's adjustable suspension. You can obviously adjust at the top there, and you've also got the rebound that you can adjust here, so you can adjust the spring by turning the top essentially giant washer on there, and you can screw that up or down, and then you've got the rebound. So yeah, and a full-on cover of the mudguard. As you can see, that plastic runs right around, so it comes around to the front here as well, so you've got that on there, so that should stop you getting sprayed up. That stand is sort of inspired really by the S22. As you can see here, the S22 looks like that. Obviously a much bigger wheel, but this is like a little micro version of this S22, so that's pretty neat. Gonna head out on this now, see how I get on with it. I am coming from currently testing the InMotion V14, which is a 134 volt wheel, 4000 watt motor. So I'm dropping down. Obviously it's much more expensive than this, so this is an interesting one for me. It's in between that S22 V14. It's essentially a much more affordable package in terms of its fact, it's got suspension, adjustable lights, etc. So it should fit quite well between different people's budgets, especially with these three that are sat here as well. So we'll see how I get on, and I'm going to do some filming and report back on how we go, and most importantly for this first video, the conclusion, the range test, to see how far I actually get on this wheel. Alrighty, so what we've got is you've actually got a pickup handle sensor on the back, shall I say. So that is like a touch sensor. You touch that and it cuts out, so you can just lift it up. No spinny. There we go, back down again. Some very pretty lights on it. Look at that. See them? Look at it. Let's give it a go. It's the worst that can happen. I feel pretty sharp. It's quite light. In comparison to the V14, it's really light. I reckon you can almost, you can just move this thing about. That's actually quite quite impressive. I like it. Should we go over there? So we're just going to try the curb. So we're just going to hop off the curb with it and go up it and just see how it tackles that and how it responds. Because, I say, coming from the higher voltage wheels, dropping down, that available voltage versus wattage, etc., the amount of torque you can push and slam into something. So I'm not going to, initially I'm not going to jump it, I'm just going to ride into it and see how it responds. So if you've got zero skill in hopping these wheels, etc., then you should be right with a curb, potentially. We'll give it a go, and of course the smaller diameter wheel, like a 16, if you're on an 18, 20, 22, curbs are a lot smaller, so you can just hit them. And obviously the smaller you go, the curb becomes bigger, more challenging. So with this 16, we'll just give it a go, see what happens. Now I'm just going to jump off it, just a little hop and then a little hop up and just see how it responds to that. But in terms of just slamming straight into it, it's fine. Didn't stutter, didn't jolt, just cope with it, no problem at all. So kind of encouraging with the suspension and with the power of this motor, just knocking into a curb with zero skill, more or less you're going to be all right. I mean, you've got to obviously watch if it's slippy and stuff and if you're heavier than me and things like that, but otherwise all good if you're slamming into it with zero skill. So its manoeuvrability and its stability is quite nice. These side pads are actually really, really manoeuvrable. Lightweight. So for slow speed, it's brilliant. I wonder what happens if I come up to the curb really slow and then try and get it up and over that curb from a really close angle at slow speed. What's the torque like? Absolutely fine. No problem. That's really good. Really manoeuvrable. I like it. You should have a side hop off it. Look at that. Woo-hoo. Warning me because I go too fast. So I could change that within the app. Try and see if I can unlock that because it's warning me like at 22. It starts going. Like it's some sort of robot. Cool. Let's go. That is the range test done. So should we get straight to the point? How many miles did I get out of this just over 1400 watt-hour machine? 22, which actually for the battery size is pretty good. Battery size and price, importantly. So, you know, depending on what your budget is, is where your battery size is going to be. It's pretty much approximately 50% of the wheel cost is battery. So this is like for my riding it, it's like a great entry wheel into suspension, essentially. And it's got plenty of torque. I say I've come down from the V14, 134 volt wheel, down to an 84 volt, and it's it's impressive. As you'll see from some of these jumping videos, you know, we pushed it through its paces in this straight out of the box. Didn't do any adjustment suspension at all. It felt all right. Obviously, if it felt out of whack, you'd do something about it, but straight out of the box, it has been spot on, no issues whatsoever. So the torque, I haven't really noticed. One thing is the tyre is, like I say, a cross-terrain tyre. If you really want to do some serious off-roading, you would need to get some form of knobbly on there. You're limited to a degree by the mudguard positioning, but you can get away with a little bit in there. So you probably could fit a knobbly to it. That's only the extreme though. So if you're really taking it, we had a lot of rain basically yesterday. We had rain for this summer. So we've had rain for 2 days straight, 3 days straight, something like that. And it's really odd. We've got this like rocky terrain with mud on top, which is like clay, and then normal dirt on top of that. It's slightly compacted down, and without knobbles, proper knobbles on your tyre, you're going to slip. So yeah, from that point of view, if you're doing some extreme off-roading, you might need to change a bit. In terms of efficiency, of like performance and efficiency for road and trails, this is spot on. So you haven't got the huge amount of drag you get with knobbly tyres, reducing your range. It works well. So again, unless it's extreme and muddy, so it's only the mud that's affected. The dry stuff, when we had the dry days, I didn't have any slippage at all. It was fine. Did everything I wanted to do. It's only when you've had some downfall and you're in the extreme end of the scale in terms of what you're trying to hit, basically. So tyre works 99% of the time, unless you're buying this wheel to do extreme muddy trails. Then you need to change the tyre, almost certainly. The pads have been spot on in the way that you could now, they're starting to bring these out where you can just position wherever you want out the box without having to buy custom ones. They were brilliant, especially for jumping again. For my, obviously it changes around, the dynamics change slightly depending on your stature. For me, these down about this height, just above my foot, you can launch this thing. That is the benefit of having such a small battery. It's very light in comparison to other wheels. So if you're looking for the benefits of suspension, but you don't want that heavy wheel to go with it, and you don't want 40 miles of range, this is spot on. It's so maneuverable. You can literally stand still, just hop it sideways. It's just really, really nimble. It's like a little trickery machine. I really, really enjoyed riding it. The display, really, really good. So the display will show you percentage of your battery and also the battery bar at the bottom. Now again, to draw a bit of a parallel with the InMotion V14, they're not the same wheel, not even trying to say they are, but I did mention in that video, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It shows battery percentage and battery status bar. It wasn't customizable at the moment, at time of filming. With this one, you can change this, so you can change it from showing battery percentage and retain the battery bar, or you can have your amperage output or the current. Hey, work that one out. Your current. So what you're doing as you're riding, what current that's drawing on that screen, and still maintain this. I mean, this isn't, percentage is nice because you know where you are with an accuracy. So the other thing that I like, talking about percentages, is when the battery was really low, I was still able to do 22 miles an hour out of, I think it was about 8%. 7 or 8%, and so that was good. It didn't nanny too much in terms of the low battery performance and your speed. Now obviously as it drops, so it started dropping around about 47%. The tilt back was tilt me back at about 29 miles an hour, something like that. That's an approximate, based on your weight, etc. It's not only based on battery percentage, but don't forget also based on your amperage output, current output. So if you're going up steep hills, it's going to reduce to a degree. But anyway, around about that, it started to cut in and started to assist with the tiltbacks. But 29 at 47% is pretty good. It's not like it was stopping me at 20. So I was really impressed with that. It allowed me to have as much enjoyment out of this whole machine and I mean whole machine, so down to low battery percentages, it was still performing pretty well. So even at 5%, it was doing 15 miles an hour, which, you know, if you're trying to just scrape home or scrape to your next charge, that's far better than 5 or 6 miles an hour, which I've known in the past of different machines. So yeah, worked really, really well. So the actual riding, it holds really well when you're going at its maximum speed. Just feels stable as anything. It doesn't feel like you're at its upper limit. It's just sat there really comfortably, just bombing along. Has loads of unique sounds. So one thing you'll notice is this: when you turn it on, try it now. When you turn it on, turn this off a second. Well, there's one of them. And then let's turn it back on. Now, just a quick note, you can get the board to stay on, so like a wake mode for up to 10 minutes, I think it is. And you can reduce that. So I've just turned it off, because otherwise this doesn't do this every single time. So if I left it as standard and I turned it back on 30 seconds later, it wouldn't make this sound. There you go. So it's got loads of funky sounds, including when you've got low battery, when you're trying to overpower the machine, all those things. It gives you loads of different audio, which is pretty cool, actually. But that, again, is personal preference. These, I'm not so sure. I'm not a neon light man in terms of showing loads of different RGB type stuff going on. It's pretty cool, I guess. I've left it on. Tell you who loves it. Kids love it. When you ride past, they're like, what is that? Which is pretty epic. So I enjoyed doing that. Foot plates already come with spikes pre-installed. You know, this stuff now we're starting to take for granted, which it never used to be. It used to be skateboard type tape fitted to them, or rubber pads which were slippy when wet. It's already got spikes on them. I find them absolutely adequate. I've had 2 different types of trainers on, tried it with both, and I've also, obviously, as I mentioned, ridden in wet weather and also in dry. I've had no issues whatsoever. Slipped, not at all. And in terms of the foot plates, they've got loads of holes drilled into them. So what I found is it doesn't retain as much mud or water. Now, some foot plates, if they haven't got that drilled into them, what they used to be made up is like a honeycomb sort of internal with a plate on top, then the rubber or skateboard grip. If you ever took them apart, you took the top off, you very often find water ingress in there and or mud. With these, they're molded as a one piece, got plenty of holes in them, and there's no internals to get filled up or dirty, etc. They are what they are, and fairly lightweight, to be fair, which you kind of need on this wheel. So I found the mudguard to be completely adequate. You can see it's covered in dust. We've got quite a few nice shots of it just bombing along and just dust flying up everywhere as I hammered it along. The light adjustment, front light adjustment, be able to adjust them just by pulling them out and in like that. That's really, really handy if you find yourself blinding oncoming traffic, etc. Suspension's performed flawlessly. It's just for the price, you know, everything's got a price. Like if you wanted maximum speed, you have to spend a lot more money. But also what seems to come with that is that extra weight. And so what this is doing, this is enabling you to have the benefits of suspension and the mechanism, which works really swimmingly. So I'll pick it back up for you to have a quick look. That just performs really, really well. You know, it's taking out all the nasty bumps. So if you've got bad knees, bad back, this is definitely going to aid it. And it doesn't break the bank in comparison to some others on the market. So you've got a stand as standard, pun intended. You've got the suspension. You're getting 22 miles. That should be, depending, unless, I always say this, unless you're heavier than me. I turn the light on. Didn't mean to do that. This works, by the way, with gloves on as well. Tested that. It does work with gloves on. Yeah, so unless you are essentially heavier than me and you're riding in much colder temperatures, the worst you're going to get is 22. Lots of people will always write in saying, well, I'm getting 30 out of my wheel, etc. Yeah, that's fine. So it's the lowest figure. So that's what I got, and it was pushed hard. You know, if you're heavier, you're carrying more stuff, whatever, then you obviously got to take into account. And if you're going super steep hills all the time, obviously that's going to reduce. But I got 22 out of it, which I think for the price and for the feature set that this wheel's got, with all the customizable screen, with your lights, adjustable lights, trolley handle, a standard, you got all the mudguards fitted. I mean, there was a time you had to buy mudguards to fit onto these things as an optional extra. This is all built in, spiked foot plates. You know, it's quite a lot of wheel for the price. And as I say, again, coming off a V14, which is a lot more money for a start, It's got an off-road tyre, so it does handle a lot better in the off-road, and it does go farther. If you take out that I didn't really utilise fully the V14's torque, and also the speed, unless you really want to ride real fast, it's not like this is doing 25 miles an hour. You know, it's doing over 30. So it's quite a wheel for the price. You basically get everything in a real light, really well developed package. So pretty impressed. As well as that, it comes with a 5 amp charger. So from memory, I think it's 3 amp with the V14. That comes with a 5 amp charger with double charge ports. So you could double it up if you really wanted to. But that 5 amp, and that's the other thing, getting back up to that 50-60% is really quite quick with a 5 amp charger and a smaller battery. So yeah, you kind of, if you've got places to stop, if you do your 22 miles and you pull into a pub to have lunch or something like that, and they allow you to plug in, by the time you finish, you're going to be back up to like 60-70% and back on your way again. So there is always that to consider. And if you took 2 chargers with you, piece of cake. You could travel, essentially, for a much lower price, you could travel around all day. If you just add the extra of another charger, you know, as long as you're allowed to plug in and charge, yeah, you can go all day, can't you? So, yeah, I'll continue riding it. And if you've got any questions and things like that you'd like to know about, before I go, at the back here, you've got the older style USB and a USB-C port on the back as well. So if you're doing lots of filming, you want to charge camera equipment or indeed your own phone, you can. You can do that. It does everything in a nice little package. So, yeah, haven't used that. Trolley handle, lots of people use them, especially if you're commuting. It is useful, but I don't use them because I'm not commuting. I'm traveling from A to B. I've got no intermediary travel, trains and buses and stuff like that. So that's it. If you've got anything you would like to know about or you want me to test or comments, or you have one, let us know if you've got one already. And obviously, hopefully by now, you will know where to get them from, which is speedyfeet.co.uk. Go and check them out. They're on there. Go and check out the other wheels as well. You just go to unicycles at the top. New, click on new, and you'll see all the ones that we do currently. So, yeah, I will catch you on the next video, whatever mileage I decide to do it on. So, that's it. Like and subscribe.